to begin. Obviously, a difficult result for you guys, but if you can just give us your thoughts on the game, how you felt like your team played this evening.
Yeah, and obviously a real rough first half, and I think again a lot of it for me in football, as it is in life, is psychological. I think we were poor with the ball in the first half. A lot of loose passes that aren't consistent with the kind of team we are. That led to some poor defensive decisions. And typically, if you concede one goal, it's about mindset. It's about making sure you're present. It's about making sure the next play is done the right way. And again, you can make all kinds of excuses, the heat, whatever it may be, but it wasn't good enough tonight. And so, oftentimes in these moments, you want to place blame, but the kind of person I am, and the kind of coach I want to be, it starts with me. And how we now use this as a piece of momentum heading into the latter part of the season, with the way we train, the mindset, how we start games, the mindset and the way we defend as a group. All these little things add up over the course of a game, and confidence is won and lost on the field. And so making sure that we understand that when things don't go our way, we have the mental fortitude to bounce back, and that belief that we've had, for the majority of the season. But it was obviously a difficult game. I thought in the second half, the guys did a good job trying to get after it, created some decent chances, and again, the ball wasn't going in the net tonight. And I think goals change games, goals change psyches, and tonight we didn't have anything going our way.
All right, thank you for that. We'll start with questions here in the room. Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll start on the right here.
Hi, Coach. Hello. Okay, I don't think it's on, but
we got it.
Okay, cool. So your team has been able to come back from a 2-0 result against Houston Dynamo, but at Real Salt Lake. Would you say, I know you mentioned the heat a little bit, but is that really a factor? Was that a factor in tonight's match?
Again, I'm not on the field. And I think in life, when things don't go your way, you're going to find a reason, as opposed to pointing the finger at yourself, as to make better decisions on the ball, get in better positions defensively. And so that was disconcerting to me. And if it is the heat, well, there's two teams playing in the heat, and so although they're more accustomed to it, for me, it's really about us. And like I've said to the guys, our biggest threat is us against us. It's holding a standard, whether we're playing in heat, whether we're playing in snow. It's holding us. It's that we play to our standards. And tonight we didn't do that.
One follow-up. What would be then the positive from tonight's match?
Well, that we fought hard in the second half, and again went for the game. Chicho got some minutes, which was great. He's been away from the team for quite some time now, so that was a positive. And I thought again we were more aggressive with our mindset in the second half. In other words, you're going to always you have to give something to get something, and we were willing, to try to score a goal to open ourselves up in the back. But again, I think if we start the game with that mentality, well, this game probably would end differently.
Yep. We'll do a couple more here in the room and then switch over to Zoom. For those of y'all on the call, if you have questions for Pablo, please click that raise your hand button and I'll get you in. Go ahead, Herman.
Hey, Pablo, good evening. We spoke to Ben Olsen before you stepped in, and in his view, the game was very balanced. It's interesting to hear you take the point of view of psychologically the goals were detrimental to the team. What can you do to improve the mental strength going forward? As you said, you're trying to build momentum.
No, I think that's a good question. I think it all starts in training. I think it all starts. For me, you cannot behave differently on Saturday than you are Monday through Friday. For me, it's impossible. And with our group, there's been a lot of really good individual performances over the course of the season. And again, when I say it's us against us, what I'm referring to is when the ego gets involved, people start to play a little bit differently. And as a collective, our strength has always been the team. And when the national media and international media start talking about individual players, it's only natural that people start to believe that they are greater than what they are, and what they mean to our team, right? And so then behavior starts to change. So it all starts with training. And again, we want to be a great team, and great teams are willing to suffer and sacrifice and do things that other teams aren't. So we're going to get back on the horse. We're going to train. We're going to use these next few weeks to fine-tune all that stuff, but more importantly, to commit to being a better team than we were tonight.
And then your experience as a player, you've been in their shoes right now. What can you use from your experience as a player to hammer that message home?
Well, I think the most important message is that the way I look at a team is that we're all on the boat. In other words, the players, if they play poorly, that means the coaches were poor. There's no blaming anybody. That we're on the same boat, and we've got to paddle in the same direction, right? So I think that's the first part of using my experience, is that players don't play games to lose. Players don't play games to have poor performances. That's not. So that's why it's a collective, right? And my experience is that there's only one way to get better, is to double down on the stuff that you're doing. And it's not to have a vacation. It's not to get away with family. Because again, when you come back to the trenches, you're going to be dealing with some very good players, very good teams. And we just want to make sure that we're ahead of the curve, that we're prepared for everything, and more importantly, that we're committed to being a better team than we were tonight.
Okay, we'll go ahead and transition over to questions on Zoom. We'll start with Caleb Turner. Caleb, your line should be open. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Pablo, your team has played Houston several times in your time as head coach, but you haven't been able to get the win in Houston. Why do you think that is?
Caleb, hang on one second. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you think it is about being in Houston that this team struggles to get a win.
That's a good question. I don't know, because performances lead to results, right? And obviously, like I said earlier, it's easy for me to say that the weather didn't have an influence, but again, Atlas came here and got a result, so it's obviously something that you can overcome. Again, I just look at the mentality after conceding the first goal. But really, it was on both sides of the ball. I thought we were really loose with it in the first half on both sides of the ball. And again, when your teammates start to lose the ball, then you start to be frustrated as a player on the field, and then it becomes a downward spiral. And again, just looking at those goals, one of them was a deflection, one was a set piece that was very poorly dealt with, and the other one was an old goal. So it's not like, tactically we were off it. We just weren't sharp, and we conceded goals at inopportune times, and we weren't able to bounce back. So, again, it's the game of football, and anything can happen. But I do know one thing for sure is that goals change games, and tonight we weren't able to score one.
Okay, Caleb, any follow-up questions?
One follow-up.
Go ahead.
The subs at halftime. You mentioned you wanted to get Chicho on the field. The other two, Brody and Anelli, what was the thinking there?
Again, probably if we had more subs, probably would have made a few more, given how lackluster that first half was. Ojeda looked like he was heavy. He wasn't as dynamic as he usually was. And then again, I think Alex didn't have one of his better games. We weren't able to I think our left side in general was poor in the first half, and so then bringing a spark And again, I think, Nelly did a really good job. I think Brody did a fantastic job on that left side. And then Chicho created some really good opportunities. So from a sub perspective, I was really happy with the way they injected energy and quality into the group.
Okay, next, next we'll go to Sean Walker and then finish up with Juan Carlos Artiles. Sean, your line should be open. Go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, the team's obviously got a pretty significant layoff, just short of 3 weeks, I think, before your next MLS match. So I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of peek behind the curtain as to what is immediately next. You mentioned you want to get back on the horse, but is that training right away? Are you going to give the guys a couple days off, or how do you kind of jumpstart getting right back on the horse, I guess, and getting ready for league play again?
Yeah, no, like I said, the only way I know to rectify anything is to work harder and work smarter, right? And so give the guys 2 days off, and then we're back in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. We'll go 5 days in a row, 2 days off, and then we'll go 5 days in preparation for the San Jose game. And again, it's not about punishment. It's about getting better, and it's about because when you stand in the locker room and we talk with the group, it's really easy to go, okay, guys, let's get away from this. But getting away from it isn't dealing with the issue, right? It's almost like it feels good to give time away. But again, we got a couple new players. We have a group that, Jay Glad just joined the group. I think this is his third game with us to make sure he's up to speed. So it's really about bringing everyone together and using this time to really, be a more cohesive group. And again, with new players coming in, I think it's really important to reset and to really get after it. And that's the only way I know of getting better and making sure that we're not standing here after that San Jose game saying the same things.
All right, Sean, any follow-up question?
Just really quick, you mentioned the new players that are coming in, and I don't know exactly what sort of the onboarding process looks like for some of those guys, but I know obviously Benji's played with you guys for the Cup, and Javane's been in market and whatnot. Is Lackland fairly close to getting in market here pretty soon?
From what I last heard, I think he is, although he hasn't arrived. Javane's been training with us for a couple days, and he's got some visa issues. Excuse me. So, again, I think along with the group resetting, it's the onboarding stuff that's just as important. And it might sound crazy, but Benji comes from a different setup, a different system, and he is still learning on the fly while these games are coming. And so it'll be a great opportunity to get into the weeds and the details that these guys have for whatever it is, 25 games. And that cohesiveness to make sure that the guys that are joining the group have a really good understanding, so that we can be, we can play as a collective, come the San Jose game.